record button and shift there and there, and it should be new camera. And let's see. Yes, there's a frog. All right, so everybody can still hear me. By the way, I'm going to flip him over. Let's see, Bella, what side is this?
The that side is going to be the it starts with a V. Ventral.
All right, so that's his ventral side. So the reason why he has this cut here is because basically this is where his heart is, and what they really did is they went in here and they injected him so that his blood vessels will show up a little better. It would be he'd be real gray inside. All dead animals are going to be that way. If not, and so they kind of preserve it. That's the reason why this is this way. Obviously, he didn't get shot in the heart, and that's what killed him at all. They do the same thing down here on the leg as well, as they're kind of trying to stain some stuff for us to see. So real quickly, what I'm going to do first, because it's already like this, is I'm going to take his skin and get it out of the way. I do want you can't feel this because you're not here, but I'm going to try my best to kind of give you a good example of this as I show you. Everybody take a look at this skin and notice how thin this is. Anybody want to guess why?
Because water absorption.
Part of it's water. What else?
Because when they breathe
or whatever.
Right. So Emery's right. They breathe through their skin. Part of their oxygen retrieval is through breathing through the actual skin itself. Okay. And so they take in oxygen. So their skin is very, very thin. You're also going to notice something about that. This frog's pretty big. And so if he breathes oxygen in through his skin, what would that probably tell you about the size of his lungs?
They're not big.
Bigger than normal.
So what we would expect to see in a frog like this, right, I'll come down, is probably lungs from maybe here to down in here. And we're not going to see that. You'll see that here in just 1 second. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just get his skin out of the way just so that everybody has a chance really to take a look at this. If you were doing this for me, you pretty much would not be using a scalpel. There'd be no need. I'd just pretty much have you cut with a pair of scissors, okay? But more or less what I'm going to do, and this is the same thing that would happen for Claire, let's say if she's in the surgery or whatever else, is that she's going to create releasing incisions to be able to actually get stuff out of the way. So you kind of quickly realize how animals and ourselves are put together from the standpoint of how little it takes to be able to take us apart. We're not really any different than this animal here. I do want you to see, and I'm going to get some stuff out of your way. Just 1 second so that you can kind of take a gander here at some stuff. So notice, I'm going to pin some of this stuff back here in just a second so that it's not bothering you guys as far as being able to see. All right, so I've pretty much kind of taken his underbelly of his coat off. If you notice, we've got some, what are these right here? See if we can see this. I think you should be able to. What's this dark line?
A vein.
All right, an artery or a vein, technically probably both together as they travel typically in pairs. So its responsibility is either taking care of this ventral surface on this side to feed all of this. You can even see, notice the skin, see all of this lineage that's here. Of course, obviously all of his skin is cells as well and still have to be fed. Of course, this is what we define as capillaries. Remember, capillaries are where we actually have the ability to transmit fluids in between and out of. And so kind of keep that in your mind as far as why on earth we would do it the way we're doing it. I'm going to get this stuff out of the way real quick, and then that will be all free there for us to not have to worry about again. All right, so let me clear him out because he is obviously filled at this point in time with lots and lots of formalin so that you have the ability to see. All right, so what would this be? Right here.
I don't know.
Huh?
The membrane.
What do we have in our stomach area right here on the outside?
A lining.
Nope. I've got 8 of them because I'm so awesome because I'm ripped and work out all the time.
Abs.
These are his musculature, right, that allows him to basically bend and move in the stomach, etc. I mean, all that region. So this is nothing but muscle is all this is, okay? The same thing you and I would have. He has far more musculature. You can see the white area. He has far more musculature here, right in the dead center, than he does on this outside. If you were touching like I was, this feels much thinner. This feels like it's thicker. It's not by a lot, but it's definitely a difference. There's a reason. He doesn't do a whole lot of lats in his crunching, right? I mean, you're not seeing him at night, on his side doing his leg lifts. He's typically going to be moving in this pattern. In other words, bending this way. And so as he does, this musculature gets built up, okay? So that's what this is. This is all muscle. You can see the beginnings of muscle that's down here. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and show you, in this case, just like you would have expected to see with our musculature elsewhere, you will notice that there is a difference. I'm going to hold this up. So in this case, this inside muscle, which we know is a what? What do we call this?
Flexor.
All right, so this is a flexor. We're using this to bend the leg in. If you were to actually separate this, you could stick your fingers down between these layers and be able to pull this apart. And you would have a flexor. And then on the outside, you notice that he has got this musculature, which is his extensor. And of course, notice how it wraps over what you would call a kneecap. We call this just basically a joint for him. But you would call this a kneecap. That's how it works. In other words, this muscle comes over the knee into this next bone. And so as it tightens, it pulls the leg this way and actually extends. There's a reason. No muscle pushes outwards. All muscles contract. That's their only thing they can do. They can relax and they will move back in place, but there's no force in doing that, okay? All of their force is in pulling. So as they pull, it pulls. Same thing for our our flexor here. When we flex, it's attached to the inside part of this leg, and so it's pulling the leg together. So that's how all of that works. I'm going to get the rest of this out of the way here so that you can see a little bit better here in just a second, because I'm going to go ahead and open this portion up so that you're not having to fight to see all of this. So let me ask a question. I don't know if you can see the difference, but that is hard. This is not. Somebody tell me why.
Because it's up towards his throat area.
What would be up here that would be hard?
Windpipe.
His teeth.
What do we have that protects all of our major vital organs?
Ribs.
Bones.
All right, so ribs, basically bones, right? We have the same thing that you've got from the standpoint of we are protected by a rib cage. The reason why is because of what we have in our bodies that's in this place that's so important. That would be obviously lungs and heart. He has the same thing. This is the tip of his heart. You can see this pink right here. I'm about to show you exactly what it looks like in just 1 second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release incision straight down. This is the middle, by the way, is called what for him? What orientation?
Ventral. No.
It's called
No. Median.
median. Okay, so I'm going to give median incisions, and then I'm going to laterally incise to open this up, and then I'm going to cut through this bone so you have the ability to see. So I'm going to do this with a pair of scissors because it's far safer, for me and probably for anything that happens to be underneath it as well. So literally all I'm going to do is cut straight down his belly there. And I'm going to do the same thing in releasing on each side to get it out of the way.
Can I just tell you, like, how glad I am that I'm not having to touch this thing?
Oh, come on now.
That's disgusting.
Get all the water inside.
Look at it.
Like
I'm going to throw up.
I feel like you're missing out.
I feel like I dodged the bullet. And because we're all going to see me vomit.
Me personally, I really wanted to cut the frog open, so I'm very upset.
I think you would have had a blast. I really do. Even those of you that are grossed out by stuff, I still think you would have enjoyed it. It's really not that bad. I mean, granted, obviously, at this point, I have him drowning in all this formalin that I have here, which would have been nice to have gotten out of the way. So I just continue to dump
Can y'all
him.
imagine what that lab smells like right now?
Oh, it smells fantastic.
Memory.
All right. So that's that.
Ugh.
Now let's take a look. I'm going to cut through basically his sternum, right, which would be this dead center section that you see right here. You'll kind of hear me break bone here as I do so. All right, and then basically all I'm going to do is pull them apart. So I'm going to open them up like this so that we're not fighting it so that you can see. All right, so let's just take a quick gander at some things, and we'll see if I can get us a little bit closer, okay? So let's see if we can take a quick gander at some things and just immediately be able to pick them out. What do you think this right here may be? And heck,
Liver.
let me give you a hint. So it's also attached to all of this stuff.
Stomach.
All right, so perfect. This is his stomach, okay? Right here, you can kind of see, let me turn it this way. You can kind of see how it is a little bit elongated. It's definitely fatter than what you see here. So if you look at this here, let me try to get my finger out of the way. I know this camera sucks at focusing. Notice how this is real thin, but then in between it, it's all connected. So look at all of this connection that exists here between that. That connection is blood vessels that are feeding the actual small intestine and large intestine. So this is what we would define as his small intestine. Hint, it's small. This thing right here is his stomach. And so what would we find at the end of his small intestine?
Large intestine.
AKA colon.
So watch this. Here he is. Look at this. It's attached just like this to the small intestine. You can see the small. It's going straight. I'm going to turn it that way. I'm looking at the camera at the same time. So it's connected straight to this large, which goes where? Where's the large intestine headed?
Anus.
There we go.
The rectum.
Right out his backside so that he is emptying all of his waste. Okay? So notice, if you will, those three things. I would definitely, and look, you have the ability to ask me if I were to point at this and Shauna says, is that attached to the small intestine? I have no problem being like, this is attached to it. That way she goes, oh, that's the small intestine, and yes, it's attached. So that way, that's how Shauna would ask that if she thought I may perhaps have been pointing at something else. Okay? So I don't want her to be confused.
I have a question.
Go ahead. What were you asking?
You know how, like, when we learned about our intestines, we had to learn about, like, the parts of it, like the duodenum and the
will not do
ileum.
that for
Like,
this.
does the frog have all that?
No.
Okay.
You will not. All right, so at this point, you know digestive system basically, right, on this frog, outside of perhaps maybe looking at his esophagus and those types of things. You've seen everything that exists really for his digestive system. He has a stomach, he has a small intestine, he has a large intestine, he has an anus. That's digestive. All right, so everybody take a look now, and let's see, what do you think about this big dark?
Liver.
All right, liver. So you've seen chicken liver, and it's dark, and that's a reason. Why on earth would our liver be so dark?
Because it filters.
Ah, there you go, Emery. Because its only job is literally to filter out trash. So if you were to take a white rag and wash the dishes for 6 years, I think you know what that rag's going to look like. It's not going to be so pretty, right? You're not using it as a handkerchief on your wedding day, okay? Because it's disgusting. The same thing happens here with the liver. Notice that it has multiple lobes. So you can see the lobes. Here's one that's here. Here is another one that happens to be here. Here is, in this case, a third one that is also right here, right? So you can see, I'll turn it this way. So you can see all of these lobes that exist as part of this liver, okay? So liver's dark, you won't miss it. If I were to ask you what it works with, what does it do besides filtering? What system is it part of?
Urinary.
Nope, it does play a role.
Circulatory.
All right, so we would give it either circulatory, right? What else? Shauna, you're muted.
Excretory. Oh, crap. No, I'm not.
Not now.
Excretory.
Excretory is definitely a slang term that we typically would use for it, right? So we would consider this to either be part of excretory in the sense that it is a way of waste being removed, or we'd also call this part basically of our endocrine system, which is hormones,
Endocrine.
which we have,
That's the word I was looking for.
but its primary purpose is also in the sense of filtering blood. So that's what our liver does. All right, heart, very simple and straightforward. Everybody can see it. I'm gonna get this out of the way. Here's our heart. So he happens to have a multi-chambered heart, okay? Technically, in his case, he has one ventricle at the bottom We'll see if we can see it that away, right? Nope, going the wrong way. That away right here. So this very bottom that you see, let me get down. I don't know if it's easier. There we go. This very tip is going to be a ventricle right about here. And then up here and up here are two atrium. He has a left and a right, and then he has, in this case, his actual ventricle. By the way, what is this covered in? Anybody have know what the part is covered in?
It's crap. I know it, but I don't know it.
All right, what's the Latin word we use for heart?
Is it media?
Cardio.
All right, cardio. All right, and so what we would define this as is basically pericardium is what we would call this, okay? So peri is a word for like membrane, okay? And so this is a pericardium. That's what we would call this. All right, everybody look for me and see, what is this sac that is underneath the liver?
Gallbladder.
Oh, nice, a gallbladder. Excellent, okay? So here's a gallbladder. Its job is to do what? What does it do? What's a gallbladder do? Some of you have had it removed. What on earth was
Cause
its job?
problems. Produce bile.
All right, so
It's bile.
all right, so it stores bile, right, in the gallbladder, so that basically when he eats things that need to be broken down by that bile, the actual gallbladder will squeeze down like a sack, like a water balloon, and it will squirt more bile into the stomach so that things can be digested. Okay, so this is why in some people that have it removed, i.e. myself and as well, I think Allie and others, its deal is that it is a situation where typically fatty foods cause our gallbladder to react. And so that's why if you're having a gallbladder attack, you typically turn around and you stay away from fatty foods if you can help it, or you wind up just getting rid of the gallbladder itself. All right, on this side over here, and by the way, the pink stuff that you see, why are some things pinker than other things? And think real quick about what I talked about this frog for me.
Blood flow.
All right, blood flow. So the pinker something is, the more there's blood flow. So you wouldn't expect to see a whole bunch of that here in this liver. But notice, if you will, on the side of this liver, you see something. So let's look at this thing that happens to be sitting underneath him right here, and it's very pink. Why? What is this?
I don't know.
What would have lots of blood? Huh?
Pancreas.
Nope, not a pancreas. He has two of these, by the way.
Kidney.
Lungs.
His lungs. There we go. So this is his lung. Notice the size of his lung in this case compared to his entire body. I'm going to try to hold this up so that you can see. This is his lung, or one of them right here. And again, we don't have lungs like that. That's because you and I don't get the ability to actually breathe through our skin. So he has a lung that's here, and then if we were to look on his other side, you will see that he has another lung as well right here. You can see, in this case, this one has been basically collapsed. But you can see this lung, and then as you turn over on the other side, you see the same thing over here with this lung. So this is how he breathes. This is also very filled with blood, because what happens in the lung?
Breathing.
Right. Well, be specific. What happens in the lungs dealing with blood vessels? What goes?
Oxygen and release of
There
carbon
we go.
dioxide.
So we're losing carbon dioxide. We're taking in oxygen. So there's lots and lots of blood vessels in our lungs that are here. Okay. So you can kind of see that in this case right here. Oh, Frank, hey, you're outside. All right. So that's a lung. And again, you can see the same thing here on the other side here. Okay. So real quickly, I want to show you, if I can, I'm going to try to find it so that everybody, by the way, anybody happen to know what these are called? If you didn't look, they were in your notes. Anybody know?
Hey, your camera like cut out for half a second, and then you were touching that thing. Like, where
yeah.
are you at right now?
All right.
Yeah.
So, hey, what is this thing called, by the way?
Spleen.
I don't know. It's nasty.
All right, so this is what we call a fat body. So these are fat bodies. Some frogs have more of them. It's their storage, basically, for energy. So they have these long tentacle-like looking things, and they'll be all inside of them. He doesn't have a whole bunch of them, okay? So thankfully, we don't have to worry about that. But this is what we define as fat bodies. You'll have to know that. This little bead that's here on it is part of the fat body, okay? You can kind of see the bead right here with my finger. But you did say something about a spleen. Everybody notice this little P that is part of this lower intestine as you look here. This is what we call a spleen. You can see it right here. Part of our endocrine system. Its job, again, is hormone release and filtering. So there that is, okay? And then another word that you guys have talked about a good bit happens to exist here at the top of our stomach. This pink area that's attached to the top of the stomach, I'm going to turn there maybe as best as I can for you to see. This pink area happens to also be another organ. What is it that attaches to the stomach?
Kidney.
Not
Pancreas.
The pancreas. So this that you see that comes down, I'm going to show you. You can see that it comes down from the liver like this, and then it attaches here to the stomach is what we define as our spleen. So this is the connection basically between the liver as it dumps all of its waste into the stomach to then be excreted. So again, you can kind of see that.
Wait, you just said the spleen was that little ball thing down there.
This is pancreas. Sorry.
The spleen.
This is pancreas. The spleen is this ball that's right here. You can see it right here.
Cool.
Okay? All right, so there is our pancreas. This bulb thing underneath our liver is called the what again?
Gallbladder.
All right, these 3 lobes that are here that are real dark are called the,
Liver.
Liver,
this big thing right here is called the,
stomach,
there we go. This big dark thing that's going out the anus is called the,
Large
Large
intestine.
intestine.
all of this corded stuff that's sitting like this is called the
Small
Small
intestine.
intestine. These brown looking beads that are in here with all these hairs are called what?
Fatty.
body.
bubble.
Fatty bodies. There
Fat
we go.
body.
All right, so you've basically seen the predominance of everything that he has. This is nothing more here than a bunch of kind of like extra skin and extra materials that he has that aren't really doing much for us. But I'm going to show you something because I think you guys are kind of down to what are we missing and what have we not seen yet. So I'm going to show you real quickly, if I can, something else. So I'm going to try to get as much of this out of the way. So notice, if you will, there is, I'm going to pull it to this side. There is this large brown shaped object that sits from here. Oh, I'm off the screen. Sorry. That sits from here to here. And there happens to be 2 of them. Here's one.
a kidney.
There we go.
Kidney.
Here, as I flip over, is the other one. It's hidden under here also, so I'm going to kind of pull this out of the way. But here is the other, which is also right here as you look. This brown thing that's right here, let me see if I can make this even clearer by getting some of this periosteum out of the way. All right, so here you go. So here is, again, a kidney. It's bean shaped. He has 2 of them. Its job is to filter what? What does it filter?
Wait,
Urine.
urine?
Urine and
Waste. Toxin.
also toxins from blood, right? All right, so there is our kidney in this case right here, okay? So you've basically seen every internal structure that exists at this point in time. Literally, I would ask you this right here. Bella would say kidney. I would say what system? Bella would say what? What would she say?
Urinary.
Urinary. I would say its function. She would say to filter urine and blood, right? Whatever it is. I would then say, what is this big thing? She'd say stomach. I'd ask her what system. She'd say digestive. I may not ask another question about that. I also may say, well, there is this thing that connects the liver to the stomach what is that called? And she would say,
Pancreas.
pancreas, right? I would probably, and I'm definitely going to ask her, okay, why on earth is this dude's lungs so dang small? And she would tell me what?
He breathes through his
Breathes
skin.
through
He could breathe through his skin, right? Heart, circulatory system to move blood through all of this. Why are things pinker in some spots? Because there's more blood flow in those places than in others. That's basically the questions that you're expecting to see on all of your practical, right? Fat bodies, kidneys, spleen, pancreas, small intestine, large intestine, stomach, liver, gallbladder, lungs, heart, even this up here, where I may ask you, why is this bone here, right? What's it called? This would be a rib cage. Why is it there? What does it say?
Oh, to protect.
There to protect. That's exactly right. So that is the internal structure of a frog. Literally, if you were here, that's all you would have done was taken this apart and found all this. And then what we'd be doing is getting ready to pin good examples of all of these things, right? Now, the only thing that you don't see, and I'm going to try to see if I can find one maybe over there in the other bucket before tomorrow, is that if this was a female, what else would you probably expect to see in her?
Egg.
Eggs. And she would wind up with a significant amount of eggs and ovaries. So in this case, this, right, that's right here, is what you would typically try to define as ovaries, but they don't look like this. So because of this, you can tell this is a male. Her ovaries will look like white spaghetti noodles that are connected, almost like her small intestine. But then she will have black eggs all attached to that. So what I'm going to try to do is see if I can hunt one down that happens to be without having to cut 13 frogs open. And that way, then if I can do so, then y'all have the chance to be able to look at what eggs are as well. All right, so any questions from anybody today on internal structures, things you're not sure about, things you're wondering about? What do you got?
Do we have to know his reproductive system? Like, does he have a specific part or area for that?
No. In his case, the only reproductive that you would see, Bella, and I'll tell you it tomorrow, is if I do find a female with eggs, then on your test, you will see her as well. I'll change frogs. And when I do, you know dang well that if I'm pointing at the lower portion of her, meaning down in here, and this white, it looks like a brain would look if you think about a drawing of a white brain that kind of looks like noodles compacted together. That's what they look like. And then theoretically, you'd see a bunch of black eggs if it was that time of year when she was harvested. That is the only reproductive I'm going to ask you about. I'm not going to pull down and find testes, et cetera, on them, just because typically it's a nightmare to try to find, difficult as far as sizing and those kinds of things.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from anyone?
When is our quiz going to be open?
Your quiz should be open at 10:30 today, which is 2 minutes.
Now.
Yep. So you shouldn't have any problem there. And by the way, if you'll notice on your actual picture, right? If you will notice that, by the way, so if you wanted to see, I'll show you. Here are this part of the bean that's part of the actual fat body. So this is a testes. Same thing on this side over here, right? The fat bodies are not always part of his testes. They just happen to be located here. Fat bodies are just storage places. But this grayish, or not grayish, but brownish looking bean that exists here and here are his testicles, right? Again, he's a male because you can tell he's missing all of this major organ that's on each side of his actual ovaries, and you'd see the difference. I'll try to find one to show you that just to make things easy. But if you look in your pictures on your PDF, everything I pointed at, especially on the PDF, if you pull it up on your camera, on your computer, is very clear. Like to me, it seems like you should almost have been able to look at that and just take this test and not have a problem, because things are pretty drawn out really well. The things they're pointing at, et cetera, you should be able to kind of get a glance of. Okay. All right. Any other questions about internal structures? Do we all feel comfortable and good?
Hey, I have a
Yep.
question.
Yes, ma'am. Ask.
So we're talking about like a lot of the times you're gonna ask us like important organs, like what system is this part of?
Yes.
We talked about the liver is the endocrine or excretory. Is there what else is part of that system? Like what else could you point out that would be?
If you did endocrine, the pancreas would qualify, the spleen would qualify. Either of those two I would take.
Okay.
Yep. And I would take urinary for kidneys. I would take circulatory for his heart. I would take respiratory for his lungs. I'd take digestive for small intestine, large intestine, anus, stomach. I would take reproductive for his testes or for her ovaries or the eggs. I would take for the mouth, right? And I may ask you that. What is the mouth?
Digestive.
All right. What else?
Circulatory.
All right. Circulatory, respiratory, digestive. Basically all of them. So he has circulatory because of lots and lots of oxygen intake that comes in through the skin that's there. He's respiratory because he's breathing in it, and he's digestive because he eats with it. So same thing for you and I outside of really the ideas of circulatory. It's not as significant for you and I in the mouth, but for him, it's all the above.
Is the gallbladder digestive?
Gallbladder would be digestive, would be perfectly fine. And if you put it in endocrine, I would not count all, but I would prefer it to be in digestive. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All that feels good. All right, so your quiz today will not be on these internal structures. I'll give you today to rewatch or look at your notes or whatever else. So your quiz tomorrow will be on internal structures. Tomorrow, same time, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to have his head kind of cracked open on the backside, and then we're going to look at just the short part of his brain. I would not expect us tomorrow to be here very long. But basically, it will just be kind of a reminder of what's going on. Here's where the videos are, etc. Every video that I'm getting, I'm re-putting back up for you so that you can see it again. And that way, then we can set stuff up. I will tell you two things, because I think I got 3 minutes and 2 seconds before they shut us down. So number one is I talked with Miss Rita and with Miss Jenkins. So you have 2 weeks left after this Friday in your senior year, more or less. So on the 24th, it seems like she's going to shut things down for all seniors. You will have an exam with me or Miss Jenkins on the 27th. That's Monday. And then the 28th, vice versa. It'll either be me first or her first. Okay. So that exam will be the 27th, 28th. You'll be done with everything else except the exam. My exam is going to be, at this point in time, multiple choice. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you can't talk me out of that, but I'm going to be honest. Many of you are doing very well on multiple choice right now. I don't want to know why or how. I don't care. My point is that if you're doing well on it, you do realize it's way easier for me to hit the auto grade button on 100 questions and be done than to have to go in and read short answer. I don't mind it. I don't mind doing that, short answer. But I'm just saying, as of right now, it seems like you've done well enough that I would rather just blow through 100 multiple choice questions and be done. Okay? Now, I'm going to throw this out there, and I want y'all to discuss as a group before you reach out to me. So when you take this exam, one of the major differences is going to be that you are going to be taking this exam at the same time in that hour and a half. So the reason why I'm saying this is, if at this point there is anyone who is being a martyr to take it first and to let others know what's on the test, I'm just saying this, you won't be able to do that on this test. So the reason why I'm saying this is I would like for y'all to decide as a class what you would rather see, because the last thing I want to do is set everything up, and then there's 100 multiple choice questions. You have from 10 to 11:30 to take the test all at one time. And I wind up with Emory making a 46 and Shauna making a 21, and I'm wondering what the freak just happened on a final exam. Shauna.
Okay. I have a question.
Yep, you got less than a minute.
Okay. Not that I have any reason to ask this, but just out of curiosity, is there any kind of proctoring happening with this, or
No.
it's just like, oh,
No.
Okay, cool.
So y'all discuss it and reach out to me and group me. I'm going to see you tomorrow at 10 because this video is about to cut off. and make sure you take your quiz today on the mouth.
Hey,
Yes.
did you get my attendance down? Yeah.
Yes, I got you. All right. Peace out, everybody.